January 1st arrives. You decide this is the year everything changes. You'll transform completely, lose 50 pounds, build that business, master a new skill, become a different person by February. By February 1st, you've quit. Again, not because you're weak, not because you lack discipline, but because you're fighting against the fundamental truth that Japanese craftsmen understood 400 years ago. There's a word for it: Kaizen. It means continuous improvement through small incremental changes, and it's the reason Japanese sword makers spent decades perfecting a single blade while Western factories tried to mass produce everything overnight. This is the story of a 29-year-old woman named Emma, who spent 5 years trapped in the cycle of massive transformation attempts and crushing failures, until she discovered what Japanese artisans, monks, and warriors had known for centuries: that 1% progress every day will always defeat a 100% sprint that burns out in a week. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Way of the Sword. In feudal Japan, becoming a sword master wasn't about intensity, it was about patience. A young apprentice wouldn't touch a sword for the first 3 years. 3 years. He would sweep the dojo, prepare tea, watch, observe, learn to be still. When he finally held a wooden practice sword, he wouldn't learn complex techniques. He would practice a single cut, the same cut, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Every day, the same movement refined by a tiny fraction. The master wouldn't say, "Try harder." The master would say, "Improve by the width of a hair." And the apprentice would spend the next year discovering what that meant. This wasn't about dramatic transformation. This was about Kaizen, continuous improvement through changes so small they seemed insignificant. But those insignificant improvements, compounded over years, created masters whose blades could cut through steel. Emma didn't know any of this when she started her 5th attempt at transformation. She only knew she was tired of failing. Chapter 2: Emma's Breaking Point. Emma had tried everything: the extreme diet that left her starving and binging, the intense workout program that lasted 3 weeks before her body broke down, the ambitious side business plan that overwhelmed her within days. Every attempt followed the same pattern: massive enthusiasm, brutal effort, inevitable collapse. She'd read all the motivational books: go all in, commit 100%, no excuses. And she tried, she really tried, but every failure reinforced the same belief. She wasn't disciplined enough, she wasn't strong enough, she would never change. One night, after abandoning yet another transformation plan, Emma was scrolling mindlessly when she found a documentary about Japanese pottery. It showed an old master who had been making tea bowls for 60 years, the same bowls, every single day. And the narrator said something that stopped Emma cold. Master Hamada doesn't try to make a perfect bowl. He tries to make today's bowl slightly better than yesterday's bowl. After 60 years, the improvement is almost invisible day to day. But compare today's bowl to one from 20 years ago, and the difference is extraordinary. Emma watched the master's hands moving with impossible precision, each movement refined over decades, not through dramatic breakthroughs, through tiny, daily improvements, through Kaizen. That night, she searched for everything she could find about Kaizen, and she discovered it wasn't just about pottery. It was a complete philosophy that had shaped Japanese excellence for centuries. Chapter 3: The 3 Pillars of Kaizen. As Emma researched deeper, she discovered that Kaizen rested on 3 fundamental principles that Japanese masters had applied to everything from sword making to tea ceremonies to calligraphy. First pillar: Shoshin, beginner's mind. Zen master Shunryu Suzuki taught that in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind there are few. This is Shoshin, the beginner's mind. Japanese masters understood something paradoxical. The moment you think you're an expert, you stop improving. The moment you think you've arrived, your growth ends. So even after decades of practice, true masters maintained the mindset of a beginner, always learning, always discovering, always improving. A tea master who would perform the ceremony 10,000 times would still find something new to refine in the 10,001st. Not because the previous ceremonies were failures, but because perfection is a direction, not a destination. Emma realized her mistake. She'd been trying to become the finished product immediately, the expert on day one. But Japanese masters spent lifetimes in the beginner's mind, forever refining, forever improving. Second pillar, muri, avoiding unreasonableness. The Japanese have a concept called muri, which means unreasonableness or impossibility. And in the Kaizen philosophy, muri is the enemy of progress. When a samurai trained, he didn't practice until exhaustion every day. He practiced at a sustainable intensity that could be maintained for years. Because what's the point of training so intensely that you injure yourself and can't train tomorrow? Emma saw this in the documentary about the pottery master. He worked every day, but he didn't work until his hands bled. He worked at a pace he could maintain forever. And forever was the key word. Western culture glorifies burnout, hustle culture, work until you drop. But Japanese masters understood that sustainable pace beats heroic intensity, always. The tortoise doesn't beat the hare because the hare burns out. The tortoise wins because the hare burns out. The third pillar, wa, harmony and balance. Wa is the principle of harmony. In Japanese martial arts, it's not about forcing techniques, it's about finding the natural flow. In Japanese gardens, it's not about imposing order, it's about revealing the inherent balance. Applied to personal improvement, wa means your changes should feel natural, not forced. They should integrate into your life, not fight against it. Small changes create harmony. Massive transformations create chaos. A monk learning Zen meditation didn't start with hour-long sessions. He started with 5 minutes, then 6, then 7. Each increase was so small it felt effortless, but over months he was meditating for hours without strain. Emma realized why all her massive changes had failed. They violated wa. They created war between who she was and who she was trying to become. Kaizen offered a different path. Harmony through gradual change. Chapter 4. The 1% Revolution. Emma decided to try something radical. She would improve by 1% per day. Not 100%, just 1%. So small it was almost laughable. But she remembered the sword makers and the pottery masters. Small improvements, compounded over time, create mastery. She started with her morning routine. She didn't try to wake up at 5 a.m. She set her alarm 5 minutes earlier, just 5 minutes. The first morning, it felt ridiculously easy. The second morning, the same. After a week, the 5-minute earlier wake-up felt completely natural. So she moved her alarm another 5 minutes earlier. For exercise, she didn't commit to an hour-long workout 6 days a week. She committed to 10 push-ups every morning, just 10. Some days she felt like doing more, and she did, but the requirement was only 10. After 2 weeks, 10 push-ups felt so easy it was almost silly, so she added 2 more, then 2 more. For her side business, she didn't schedule 2 hours every night. She scheduled 15 minutes, just 15 minutes of meaningful work, not checking email, not scrolling for inspiration, actual work. And she did it every single day. Here's what happened. The changes were so small that her brain didn't resist. There was no willpower battle, no internal war. It was just easy. And because it was easy, she never missed a day. And because she'd never missed a day, the improvements compounded. Chapter 5. The Compound Effect. The Japanese have a practice in calligraphy where students copy the same character thousands of times. To Western eyes, the first copy and the 1,000th copy might look nearly identical, but to a trained eye, the improvement is profound. Each repetition adds a layer of understanding that can't be gained through intensity, only through patience. This is the power of compound improvement. It's invisible day to day, but devastating over time. Emma tracked her progress. After 1 month of waking 5 minutes earlier each week, she was waking 20 minutes earlier than when she started. It happened so gradually she barely noticed. After 2 months, she was waking 40 minutes earlier. Still no resistance, still effortless. Her push-ups followed the same pattern. 10 became 12, 12 became 15. By month 3, she was doing 50 push-ups every morning without thinking about it. Not because she'd forced herself, but because she'd added 2 push-ups at a time, each increase so small her body adapted without strain. Her side business saw the most dramatic results. 15 minutes per day doesn't sound like much, but 15 minutes every single day for 3 months is 22.5 hours. That's nearly 3 full workdays of focused effort. And because it was sustainable, she never burned out, never quit, never took a week off to recover. By month 6, Emma had transformed. But when people asked her how she did it, they were disappointed by her answer. I improved by 1% per day. They wanted the dramatic story, the heroic effort, the inspiring transformation moment. But there was no moment. There were 6 months of tiny, insignificant improvements that added up to everything. Chapter 6: The Ancient Wisdom, Modern Application. The Japanese masters understood something about human nature that modern culture has forgotten. Dramatic change creates dramatic resistance. Your brain treats massive transformation as a threat. Your nervous system fights back. Your willpower depletes. You quit. But tiny change? Your brain doesn't even notice. 1 push-up more than yesterday? That's not threatening. Waking 5 minutes earlier? Barely a change. Working 15 minutes on your project? Too small to resist. This is why Kaizen works. It bypasses your brain's defense mechanisms. It works with your psychology, not against it. There's a Japanese proverb, "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." Massive transformation is like the oak, rigid, impressive, but breaks under pressure. Kaizen is like the bamboo, flexible, patient, unbreakable. Emma learned to think like a Japanese craftsman. Not how can I transform overnight, but how can I be slightly better today than yesterday? Not how can I reach the destination, but how can I take 1 more step?